Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. My name is Michael, and this is my wife Tina, and we are Better Yourself 365. We are so happy to be here with you live again. We love doing these Better Yourself conversations.
Every week.
Every week, we try to do one on Sundays, and we're quite enjoying them, having conversations with our loved one about topics that matter to us. So.
Yeah. So today we have an interesting topic today.
We do.
Yes, I think a lot of you will enjoy that, either live or if you're watching the replay. Today we're going to be talking about how one aspect that requires daily focus or a huge focus, I guess, in your relationship is the topic of finances.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that important is that often there's underlying needs there that we need to be able to better understand for ourselves and explain to our partners. And that's part of daily nurturing in your relationship. So that's why we decided to talk about that today.
Mm-hmm.
Finances is something that people get sticky on.
Yeah, I'm sure that every couple on earth has had a disagreement or argument about money.
Yeah, and I mean, that's been a sticky topic from early on in our relationship. We had to really work through that one.
Yeah, we did.
It took us many years.
Yeah, Tina was just talking earlier about an argument we had at Sears a long time ago.
I
Staying
think
in
it was
line.
like the first 4 months of our relationship or something. I remember thinking like, uh-oh, this is going to be a rough one for us, this topic.
Yeah. And we've had to work through, just generally disagreeing on certain things, whether the direction or how we spend the money. And it's taken a lot of conversations, but we have a relatively good system set up now.
Yeah, that's why we can talk about it now. So thanks for joining us. Say hi if you're there, and if you're watching the replay, tell us as you're going how you're relating to this, because it's a very common topic. So
yeah, it is.
So you want to start off, Annie, by just telling, like, what do you think? Why do you think that finances is such a sticky topic for most couples?
Yeah, I think part of the reason is we don't really learn about it when we're young, and what we do, we learn. We're not even aware of what those principles or beliefs are. So we come into adulthood kind of not really aware of what we believe about money until we're put into a situation where we have to come to an agreement on money with our partner, and then we realize, I don't think they think the same way I do. And whether that's how we grew up or whether that's just kind of what we learned about money in other areas. So one is the belief system that we have, that we bring in, it doesn't match our partner's belief system. And the other part for me that makes sense is that we don't always agree on how we're going to use our money, what we're going to do with it when we get it, how we're going to get it. And that all requires a lot of conversations with your partner in order to make sure you're on the same page. So overall, I would say the reason why is because we're not aligned in multiple areas around finances, which is why these daily nurturing conversations need to happen so we can align around how we believe about money and come to some kind of an agreement where we can meet in the middle, which Tina's going to talk about an example.
Yeah.
That is just about that.
And it makes so much sense, though, because you're right. Like, until you're in a relationship, you make all your decisions yourself.
Yeah.
So there's no need to be flexible or to try to think about another way of seeing it. But those beliefs you're talking about, they do stem from, a lot of times, our past, our upbringing, and that's where we had to really try to understand is that we are coming from different places, and there's a reason why we needed certain things. So what happens with relationships often is when it comes to finances, we are emotionally attached to it, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and that's the thing.
That topic.
So emotions are embedded within finances, and emotions are embedded within relationships. And then, so once there's a lot of stuff that goes on in relationships, and then you throw this firebomb in of finances where now you're putting your money together for the first time. And how is that going to work? So, Tina and I have been together for almost 20 years now, and, it's taken a lot of time and conversations and agreements and disagreements and working together to finally get to a place where generally we are working well, although we still don't agree on everything, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And actually, that's what your example's about,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it is. And my example is to kind of see how this topic of finances is a big thing that requires finesse in a relationship. You have to be focused on really knowing and and sharing. You need to know what's behind your need around finances first. And you also need to be open to listening to your partner's needs because often that's where couples get stuck is that they're going into the topic of finances with this kind of emotional engagement in it based on their beliefs in the past, what they've seen in their upbringing and their other relationship. Maybe they've had struggles in the past and now they're coming in and they're more like a defense place.
Yeah, that's true.
When we were first talking about our problems with when we would get stuck, I guess, in finances, it was more of like a convincing. If I can convince you that your way of thinking is wrong and you have to come along my way of thinking, right?
A lot easier that way. If you would agree with me, then the problem's over.
Yeah. So that's where a lot of couples get stuck, is that they try to convince their partner instead of trying to hear out what's behind their partner's stance. Because there's really, at the end of the day, it's all about beliefs, things that we've learned. So there's nothing that says that your perspective is better than mine or mine is better than yours, right?
Yeah.
But when we started as we talked more, right? Because this is daily nurturing. If it's a topic that's sensitive, you have to talk about it more often to get understanding. But when you started to share more about where your beliefs were coming from and your upbringing around, being raised with less poor, right? And you were able to be you yourself recognizing, hey, there's a reason why I feel this way, why for me it's important that I save more.
Yeah, so there was a safety piece in there for me.
Yes.
And for you didn't grow up poor, but in some ways you did, because there was some crumbling of finances that happened, and so you all also wanted to seize the day more, live more in the present, and so that was imagine,
because I saw how quickly it can be taken away from
us.
Like we had a fire one time, and it's like
gone.
How quickly your finances could just disappear. So for me, it's this heightened sense of, hey, I want to live now. Yeah,
so imagine how difficult it would be for a couple when one person says, no, I think we need to put money away and for tomorrow, to make sure tomorrow is good, and the other partner says, yeah, but I want to spend more focusing on today and a little less focusing on tomorrow. So then what does a couple do?
Yeah.
We have to find that place where we can both live and be comfortable with it.
And that doesn't happen unless you have a true desire to want to understand your partner's perspective and where it's coming from, and a true desire to want to try to meet them halfway there, right? Because it's never, especially on sticky topics like finances, it's never about, this has to be all the way I want it.
No.
It's about, and you're wrong, like it's about how can we meet halfway. And our first fight around this at Sears that you were talking about earlier was around me thinking like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to want to save all of our money and I'm not going to be able to spend it.
And of course I was thinking, oh my gosh, this woman wants to spend all the money and she doesn't want to save any. So, and then we eventually got to a point where, we'll spend some and we'll save some, and that's a place we can both live. Yes. And the other thing that happens in finances in particular with couples, and this is something we talk about in our course and in our retreat, is couples get stuck in a cycle. And the cycle becomes its own thing, where now it's not about finances, it's about this thing that happens between us, and it keeps happening over and over and over.
You're not hearing me.
Yes, and I'm trying to get you to hear me, and then I go away if it's not good, and you have to chase me down, and this kind of cycle that happens. So finances is a great way to get stuck. Couples get stuck in this cycle, and that's a topic for another. The cycle is a whole other thing.
Yeah. But you have to be somewhat aware of where you get stuck so that you can try to do it differently. So the example just this week actually was to me was a good testament of, we've nurtured this, we've talked about this, and now it's so much easier, right? Because I was able to go to you this time when our roof started a leak. So all of a sudden we had this big financial thing to deal with, right? And it wasn't planned for. It wasn't, we weren't seeing this coming. We weren't saving for this. So this puts you out of your element because
makes me anxious.
Anxious, right? And so anyway, so we had a discussion around where we're gonna free up money to do this. And when I start to think about, he's accepting to free up money for us to figure out a way to get money to do this, maybe this is a good time to do the other stuff.
Some of the other stuff
that I've been wanting.
Yeah.
Maybe all not needs, right? But I knew there were some things that were going to be needs if we weren't tending to it soon, right? So, but knowing that this was going to be a topic, already the roof was going to be making you anxious about that, I came to you in a way like, okay, so I know, sensitive to that. It's like, I know the roof is probably causing you a lot of stress right now, but I'm seeing an opportunity to maybe do a couple more projects, nothing, like not all my list, because I know I have my big list that I would like. I don't want to do all the lists, I'm aware of that, but can we talk about a few things we can add on as we're freeing up money and having a bit of a loan to do this, right? Like, we talk about that together. And so that was what I was doing to try to be conscious of not going overboard and scaring you.
Yeah.
And you responded well to that. What did you have to do in that example?
Well, I had to let go a little bit because we have to let go of some of because sometimes when you're feeling anxious, your first instinct is to hold tight and be rigid. I think once I let go and allowed myself to, let's talk about it and see what that would sound like and what that would mean. And so then when you kind of get flexible, you bring yourself away from the extreme of that anxiety, and I just started to feel a little more comfortable because I was just being flexible. And I think flexibility gives comfort, and it lets you get away from that kind of black and white thinking. So then I heard you out, and it made sense to me, and I know that, and then I thought about you, and you've been very patient, so to speak, and holding off on this list that you never seem to get to of things that you want or things that we need in our home. So I had to think about what your needs were, and and when I think about it through your eyes, that's a good idea. It makes sense. So I just can't think about it through my own eyes, and that's how relationships work. Through only my own. Well, I always see them through mine, but I have to make sure I look at them through yours too.
Yeah, and then as soon as you give me a little bit, then I get all excited about the things that I can do, and then I don't feel this need to do more and more and more, right? Yeah. So we're creating a positive cycle as we're doing that.
And I don't want people to think I'm the decision maker around money. That's definitely not how it works.
No.
But because there's lots of things obviously that we purchase, but I think what Tina's talking about are a list of things that for me, I don't think we really need
necessary.
That. Yeah. But however,
I just love to go out and decorate and do stuff.
Yeah, and that gives her joy. So I think there are lots of times where it's reversed and where maybe I want something and Tina doesn't agree. So we've agreed that we have to agree on it, and that's how this came about, and it turned out good for both of us because I'm happy to see Tina happy, and I'm not anxious about it, so I just let that go. That's how I.
Really and that to me is freeing that you're not anxious about it. We'll figure this out, and it's like one thing at a time, right?
One thing at a time. That's
the example. So to recap, what we had to do, like the strategies, if you're thinking of your own struggles either with finances or another topic, right, where your needs are different, because this is what it's about: daily nurturing of knowing what you need and being able to say it and so that your partner can understand where your need is coming from. Right? It's coming from somewhere. If you ask yourself, why is this important to me? Where is this coming from? To dig a little bit deeper so that it's not just about convincing your partner. It's about, understanding. They can understand, and you try to understand their need.
Yeah.
Right? And then that you can get to a much better place of problem solving any topic. So what you have to do, the first thing, if you're thinking of the strategies and the examples we just gave, and if you're just joining now, you have to maybe go back to the replay and see what the example was. But what we had to do is first decide to move forward, to focus on the relationship instead of, to keeping the relationship instead of winning the argument,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or proving your point, trying to convince
Get
your
what you
partner,
want. Yeah.
get what you want. It's about how can you both try to get what you want here, and you both might have to give a little, right? Like that's part of feeling. It's not even a compromise. It's more about wanting to.
It's how we love our partners.
Yeah.
Is we look at it through their eyes and we say, okay, well, how can we both win?
Yes.
Rather than how can I win mine?
Mm-hmm.
It's how can we both win?
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's in the middle. And in the middle is where these great conversations happen, when both people can step in, be curious about each other, and really tend to what your partner is saying underneath,
Yes.
rather than just the things that come out of their mouth, but sometimes the needs underneath, and they don't always even know what they are. But when we're tending to asking ourselves, what does my partner need right now?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful question that you can consider when you're having a conversation.
And that's exactly the second strategy. You stole the words out of my mouth. That second strategy is about really tuning in to your own needs and being able to express them differently, and tuning into your partners. And when it comes to a topic like finances, when you tune into where does this need come from, you might be surprised at where this leads you,
Mm-hmm.
right? From your upbringing when you were a kid, from other relationships that you would have had, that maybe there was some hot points there that now is showing up in your current relationship. So those are very important to process.
Yeah.
So take time for those kind of topics that keep recurring, and they're hot topics, you keep looping into fights around it.
Yeah.
There's something deeper there that you need to take a look at.
Okay.
And the third strategy that's part of this is to really just accept that some of these conversations that are hot topics, like often finances, and there's others that we'll bring up at another conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but they sometimes you need to accept that they're going to take some time, right? It's not going to be perfect, and maybe sometimes you give more than what you would like, but then next time maybe your partner gives more
Mm-hmm.
than what they would like, right? And it's not always equal in the
Mm-hmm.
balance.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So that's it. That's
So
what
that's
we
it.
wanted to share about that.
But before we go, I wanted to give you not homework, but a challenge. So the topic is finances here, but underneath the lesson is about paying attention to your partner's needs and be open to listening to them, so you can get
your needs.
and to your own needs, and then being able to air them both. So the challenge is either identify one of your own needs that you haven't expressed to your partner, and go and do that in a gentle, curious way. Or if your partner's coming to you about something, you try your best to tune into what their needs are underneath the words. So rather than paying attention to the topic, the thing that they're asking, or what the topic is, we're talking about going underneath and seeing if you can actually attend to what your partner truly needs, and you express what your needs are and see how that goes.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of asking the question. So I just want to understand, right? Because I'm not trying to fight this. I just want to understand, what is it about that that's important to you? Help me understand that. Where's that coming from for you, right?
Yeah.
So
and see if you can create some, a conversation that goes beyond the depth of that topic and into the relationship itself with your partner.
Yeah. And in our retreat that's coming up October 1st and 3rd, that's what we help couples learn how to do, is go inwards, tune into yourself, and tune into your partner. And in that, you're changing the cycle of interaction and communication that you're doing with each other. And you don't get caught in these hot topics like finances and sex and all those, in-laws and all those topics that can cause some friction sometimes. You don't get caught in those as much because you know what's important in tuning in and how to do that. So that's what we teach couples how to do. And so the deadline is coming up to register.
Yeah, 24th of September, I think is the deadline.
So yeah, we only accept 6 couples. So if that's something you think that would be beneficial for your relationship, we'll have
Check us
information
out.
in the post there on
Yeah.
how you can connect with that.
You can get through our website too, which is
Yeah.
the name, betteryourself365.com.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Not sure what the topic's going to be yet, but we'll figure something out.
Yes, we try to go with something that's fresh that happened this week. So.
And Colleen,
Okay.
thanks for the comment. Is
Yeah.
there any other comments or questions for anybody? We can stand back here a little bit if there's anything.
Okay. Alrighty.
Bye.
Take care, folks. We'll see you next week.
See you next
Bye.
week.